to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and
minutes from July 29th.
Move to approve those minutes as submitted.
Motion been made and seconded to approve minutes from July 29th as submitted. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carried. I have a letter here from DEQ. General permit for sand and gravel operations statewide. Restitution payment from Bill Flanner in the amount of $1,232.52. Board of Investments letter concerning the short-term investment pool STIP. You have to change some rerouting numbers. We'll have to have a resolution on this next week, and it'll be on the agenda for the short-term investment program. Letter from the Department of the Interior. Subject to the 2019 working plan for the Silos Campground, Canyon Ferry Reservoir, Helena, Montana. Broadwater County Commissioners, thank you for submitting your 2019 work plan and submitting information received via email on June 17, 2019. We have completed our review of the proposed work plan and supporting information and have determined that the plan meets our management agreement. We appreciate your submission of this document. If you have further questions or concerns, please feel to contact me at 406-475-3923, Dan Stempson. Rural Montana Magazine. Second quarter report from MBAC for the Broadwater County Revolving Loan Fund being managed by MBAC. That's it for the mail. Have claims. Payroll claims. The amount of $186,280.21.
The second, the motion with the friendly amendment, I think that's payroll, right?
Yes, payroll.
Okay.
Motion been made and second to pay payroll claims in the amount of $186,280.20. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carried. Approved claims in the amount of $56,152.29.
So move to pay the approved claims in the amount of $56,152.29.
Motion's been made and second to pay claims in said amount. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
just a quick question. Could you give a current balance of the revolving loan fund on the report? And then also, question 2, do you have a balance on the outstanding balance due from the Flanner restitution?
No, I don't have the balance from Flanner. Did I get that? You want the current balance of the loan or the current balance of, current balance of $167,842.45.
And no, that's fine, thank you. That gets us current.
Let's see, 1015, Mike Conkey, disaster emergency services, wildland fire evacuation policy.
Mr. Chairman, Mike Conkey, Broadwater County Disaster Emergency Services Coordinator. Copies handed out. This is in our emergency operations plan. Broadwater County has, we have a wildfire hazard annex, and this is an appendix to that. This is a guidance document so that if we have to evacuate some areas due to a wildland fire, this document kind of lays out the purpose and how we will operate with the incoming incident management team. It might be a type 3 team, just local sheriff, fire, Forest Service, local fire, stuff like that, or it might be a type 2 team, like they have over there on the North Hill fires right now. I was DES coordinator back in 2000 during the Tofton Model fire, and a lot of this language in this document was prepared at that time. We didn't have a plan at that time, and this is kind of a guidance document. We're going to go into unified command. What that means, unified command, is the sheriff for the county, the fire chief for the county, and like if it's a Forest Service fire, they'll send a representative. They all work together as a unified command, and they'll establish all their priorities and objectives together and work together, coordinate together. Population protection is a shared responsibility between local government as well as the individual landowners and the citizens. People should be prepared to evacuate, particularly those who live up in the hills. The evacuation authority and management rests with the governor, of course, the principal executive office. That would be the chairman of the board of county commissioners or the mayor for the city. And then the sheriff's office is the lead agency planning, implementing, and managing the evacuation, along with collaboration from the incident management team that comes in, and local DES, and we bring in, set up shelters with American Red Cross and things like that. We have local evacuation process is now into a two-step process. There's a warning and then there's evacuation order. When the warning goes out, people should get their livestock out, get the children out, get the elderly out that can't travel. Pets, livestock should be evacuated early. It takes time to get those trailers and horses moved on now. Stay and defend, we do not recommend as the county government. Stay and defend is a lot of adult landowners must stay and protect the property. I think they can do a good job, some of them do. A lot of homes, shops, and barns have been saved because of that. You do that at your own risk. If a person stays, wildfire blows up, fire department, sheriff's office, incident management team, Forest Service are not going to go back in. We're not going to risk emergency responders to save somebody's life that have already been notified to evacuate in an area. If the roads are closed and you are inside, you stayed, you want to leave and then come back, you may not get back in. That's a decision of the sheriff. And he will control the different control points and stuff in coordination with the incident management team. And let's see, any questions, commissioners?
Mike, this is already part of our EOP. Are you looking to provide this as a reminder, both for us and for the citizens, or are you looking for reaffirmation?
Probably reaffirmation.
Okay.
This is in our emergency operations plan. It was reviewed extensively last year. The Montana Police Office, Sheriff's Peace Office Association went from a 4-stage evacuation warning process to a 2-stage warning and then an order to get out. And checking our records, we never did bring that revision to the Board of County Commissioners. I'm doing that this morning. So that never was approved. We discussed that a lot, but it never got on the record. We've done. Any questions from the public? Okay, everybody got copies? Okay.
Mike, do you have Is there designated places for people to take animals, or is that just something that
We use the stockyards downtown here, along the railroad, or we use the fairground. We have to coordinate that with those landowners. We just coordinate with the county agent at the fairgrounds or the rodeo club. They're the ones that lease that all the time. And that's where they can bring livestock. Down at Toston, we can use the Toston temporarily there at the railroad tracks. Usually, my experience in this county for the last 50-some years is that we have a tremendous response from stockmen that rally, bring the horse trailer, like mount help with livestock, cattle, or maybe some neighbor's cash, something like that. I've been on big wildland fires in eastern Montana as a liaison officer on the team. Went with the sheriff mainly to cut fences, drag it back, and just move cattle downhill, safe locations. And get it all mixed up, and we figure all that out later. Mainly save livestock. On the Ash Creek fire of 2013, there was over 250 herd that were burned up, caught, like deer fences and stuff like that. So we we'll work with the sheriff's office and we'll work with the firefighters to cut fences and just move livestock, save livestock. But yes, to answer your question, we do have locations.
I will move that we accept this revision to the wildland or wildfire evacuation guidance for the emergency operations plan.
Second motion.
motion been made and accepted to approve the Appendix 1 wildfire evacuation guide? Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries.
Thank you, commissioners.
Thanks, Mike.
You're welcome.
So we got some time. So commissioners update, I attended the Townsend Health Systems meeting, discussion about entering into with a letter of intent or an agreement with the health facilities between Sanford Health, St. Pete's, and Billings Clinic, and the board approved going with Billings Clinic. I believe that the process of changeover is probably gonna take place by the end of October, I believe. So that's who's gonna be the new medical provider and controller of the hospital, Billings Clinic. Other than that, that's all I have.
I had the opportunity at the beginning of the week to, and Corey also got in on this experience, he had an opportunity to visit and interview all the 4-H kids out at the fairgrounds that had their livestock, and it was a rewarding experience. It was good to talk with those kids and learn about their program and their animals and things like that. So also I want to congratulate our rodeo board and our rodeo association and the fair board on a successful fair. It was a great event, and the estimation that I heard for the 4-H auction was $205,000. It's pretty impressive by our community to support those kids. So.
I had a very busy week. So the Board of Crime Control is the review. There's a committee under the Board of Crime Control that reviews post-council revocation of peace officers' certifications. And since 2009, I just got an email that there's been, I believe, 6 total. 4 of those have been since last August. So each one is incredibly time-consuming. We had 2 last week. So, and we have another next week, and then another after that. So incredibly busy week with that. And I understand your THS board, you guys met for 13 hours?
Pretty
Is that-
close, yeah.
Yeah. You guys did, I think, an awful lot of work to take this community where you did. And thank you for that. Thanks for all the hours. That was just one meeting. I know there were several, many severals.
Debbie coming on to the budget?
I don't know, I don't know that there's anything we can do on a budget right now. Valuations should come in by statute today, and they haven't yet, so even if they had this morning, it wouldn't have been enough time for anybody to evaluate them. So my suggestion would be, let's just wait till we get the valuation and visit some of the pending issues, next week, and start making some decisions next week, and move on from there. But without having those numbers at this point, it's still just a conversation.
I think we went over everything pretty much last week for everything we had there. Built allocations, fund review, and cash reserves, we just have to wait out, find out where our mills are going, if they went up or if they cut, so we should be okay with that. The Southwest Chemical Dependency people there. Okay.
Good morning.
Is this okay where I'm at?
Yeah, you're okay.
Absolutely.
My name is Amy Tinney. I'm actually with Broadwater County. The Southwest Chemical Dependency asked us to come and speak with you this morning, and since Jean McCauley reached out, I think that's why their name is on the agenda versus our name. But with me is Dan Krause, our Chief Operations Officer at Broadwater. Jeannie McCauley, the Executive Director at Southwest Chemical Dependency, has approached us because due to some workforce issues and budget cuts, Southwest Chemical Dependency is likely not going to be able to continue to provide services in Broadwater County as of the September 30th. And so she wanted us to just come and introduce ourselves, find out what your needs may be, let you know that we may be able to fulfill some of those needs so that we don't have to cease treatment services. We're a state-approved program. We do the same kinds of services that Southwest is doing, but because we're closer and we have a couple of other resources for funding, you may be able to even expand some of that to some of the folks in your jails. We worked with the sheriff in doing that as well. So it's just a brief introduction. I understand there's already potentially a state-approved program attached with your hospital locally, so I understand that. But I wanted to give you my business cards, introduce us, answer any questions, let you know that if there's a need that Boyd Andrew could step in and fulfill that starting October 1st.
May I ask a question?
Yeah.
You mentioned helping out with our jail population. There was discussion years ago with Judge Jim Reynolds and our county attorney at the time, John Flynn, of starting a drug court here. And the discussion was, well, maybe we're just too small at this time, so we kind of are connected with Lewis and Clark County. Would that be the umbrella that you would offer those services to our inmate population under a drug court type situation, or can you describe what you would be, what it looks like?
Certainly, I can give you a little bit more specifics in terms of what we are and aren't allowed to do within the jail population. We are partners with Lewis and Clark County, with Judge Reynolds. We're part of the treatment court team for both First Judicial and the Family Treatment Court, so we are one of the main providers for both of those courts in Helena. For the jail services here, what our specific funding is for those folks that are considered pre-adjudication, pre-trial folks. You're not allowed to access the federal funding that we have for folks that are post-adjudication and incarcerated, unfortunately, because I know that's the largest need probably out there. But for those folks that are here waiting on a trial, waiting for their adjudication, we can offer some assessment services and treatment services to those folks at no cost to the county or the client. And what that can do is sometimes speed up the process for court if they need treatment or whatnot. That can always be reported to the public defender or whoever's doing the referral for that client, so that those referrals can be made before the adjudication potentially, and then somebody can kind of step right into any kind of a service once they are released from the detention center. So as far as treatment court goes, any kind of services we're doing with that, those people would be adjudicated, so we wouldn't be able to provide those within the walls of the jail. But once they're released, we certainly could and are well versed with Judge Reynolds and the rules and the policies of that.
I know it's passion for me. Thank you.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
So what we're gonna be doing is talking with Jeannie McCauley about, what kind of population, those types of things. But also, that's us having the conversation would need to be, of course, continued with the commission and all that, so. But we don't see this as jumping the gun, just trying to make sure that you all know who we are and what conversations we've had with the current provider. I actually worked for 13 years for Southwest Chemical Dependency, and when Southwest Chemical Dependency began coming to Broadwater County, I was the addiction counselor that would come here and meet up with folks upstairs in the jury room. And then subsequent to that, moved over to where Andrew and have been there 8 years. So anyways, happy to just say hello, introduce ourselves, and hopefully continue some sort of conversation about this.
Will you also wrap up into that conversation, Kyle Hofstad, he's the CEO at the hospital. There is somebody there also providing these services, and if it could be married together, I love the idea of bringing more services to town with you guys,
Okay.
but want to make sure everything is coordinated.
Absolutely, and we'd be happy to do that. We are working on a lot of different community partnerships in Helena as well, and seeing a lot of value in that, particularly in places like hospitals with primary care. You know, we're partners with Peerview in Helena and things like that, so we're starting to see a lot of the benefits of wraparound services to be able to do that. So I'm happy to have that conversation up at the hospital as well.
Thank you.
With your permission, I can leave you some business cards so you can reach out if you'd like to continue the conversation, and answer any other questions for you.
Would you have those conversations with Billings Clinic also then?
I'd be happy to, yes. Yeah, and so if I understand correctly, they're gonna be taking over, how is that working? I'm sorry, I couldn't understand.
They
I'm
will,
hard of hearing.
they'll take over the operation of the hospital.
Okay, okay,
And I don't know how that all has to be ironed out still.
okay. We'll absolutely reach out to the Billings Clinic as well and let them know.
That's okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I would love a card.
Thank you very much.
And do you want one too? I think there's still.
Yeah, Al, you wanted to wait till 11:15, right?
I did, I got people coming to be here then.
Do we have the collective bargaining agreement from the sheriff's office here? Or?
Did you bring it, Yarrow?
I think I printed a copy.
Is this the final one that Aaron was supposed to send?
I believe so. Corey, did you get a copy of it?
I've not had anything to do at all with that process, so I don't have any copy. I would recommend we wait till the calendar on this one, because are you expecting, JB, are you expecting more people from the sheriff's office to come?
No, sir.
You're not?
We already took our vote on it, we're good with it.
Okay, but is the sheriff or the other sheriff coming?
I believe they both have prior engagements, and
We've had this on the agenda. I think this is the 4th week in a row. And it's just because we didn't have an updated copy. I'd really like to get it signed and approved. You guys have been hanging for over a year, and I think that's way too long.
Well, I'm not suggesting you don't do it today, I'm just saying it's on schedule for 11:45, and it's 10:25 right now.
Well, I guess we can, do we want to just recess till 11:15?
Yeah, wait until 11:15.
Okay, so we'll recess until 11:15. So we'll re-adjourn the meeting. We're gonna take care of the COS here real quick before we can start. So, okay, Nicole.
Yes, certainly. So you have before you the Miller Family Transfer Survey. I have Mr. Miller here. He's transferring 20 acres to his son, not for a home site, for pasture land. It is greater than 20 acres, so if he did decide that he wanted to put a home on there, he could. And he would just have to work with our local sanitarian for on-site wastewater and well locations. So this is off of River Road, near Toston.
This looks pretty cut and dry. If I'm not too premature, I will move that we support the family transfer as presented for the Miller family.
And as I stated earlier, I left the signature page upstairs. Mr. Miller's signature, Chantal was finishing up some notary paperwork in her book, and I didn't want to hold you up. So if you don't mind signing that paper later, don't see any reason why that wouldn't work unless you do.
I don't personally.
Is your son Jonas?
Jones is our son, that lives with the 40 acres of farm there.
And that's who you're transferring to?
Oh, that,
You're transferring to Jonas?
no, to Dennis,
Oh, to Dennis.
our youngest son, he's still living at home.
I'll second the motion.
Motion been made and seconded to approve the Miller Family Land Transfer. Any further discussion?
I have a question.
Yes.
So, is this the one you emailed to me last week?
Correct.
Okay, so, I was a little confused on the procedure. I thought for family transfers, they were gonna go to the committee. And I mean, I thought that was one that was specifically gonna not just be an email, it was gonna be a committee look at it.
Okay,
I have, everything got derailed last week with stuff we had in the criminal world, so I didn't even look at it. I did not realize it was gonna be this fast. I thought procedure we talked about, I thought was, we'd go to the committee and we would do once a month or twice a month for review, so I don't have any reason to suspect there's a problem with this, I just think this is our first one.
and I'm sorry, I thought we were only going to email. I didn't realize that we were going to be sitting down.
I think we should clarify this, because I think if we're establishing a procedure, we're immediately departing from it, and I'm just concerned that we need to decide for sure how we're gonna do these. That would, for clarity for everybody.
I think one, it should be in writing, what we're doing. Two, I agree with you, we talked about the very simple, easy ones being via email, so that we didn't hold up the process and hold up citizens. And then if there were any that needed more review, to have the committee meet for those. This one is very simple. There is nothing that would give pause to there's any kind of evasion going on. But I think everything needs to be reduced to in writing so that there is no confusion.
Yeah, I mean, I guess from here on out, I'd like to see it do ahead of time. Personally, for me, I just want to know ahead of time what we're doing.
So you want to be a part of the committee as well?
With somebody else.
Oh, okay. But then yes, we absolutely need to get something established, and I would like that to come from the commissioners.
I thought
For
we already
you.
established that.
I guess my
email.
understanding was that it was to be via email like we've been doing previously. And if there were any concerns, the emails would be sent back, and that the committee was myself, Corey, and the sanitarian.
That is my recollection as well. I think we do need to talk about if it's going to be a larger committee, who's on it, and what the process is. But I'm not interested in something that holds up these very simple, straightforward ones. I think that would be a disservice. We do more in this county with these than others, and I like that, but it shouldn't be a disservice to the citizens.
So is there any further discussion?
I guess I would just, I agree, I don't wanna make this thing cumbersome, but my concern is that if I get this, I think I got it on a Tuesday or Wednesday, and then Thursday, Friday, I'm spending literally all day, all night on a death, and so that kind of turnaround time is not gonna work for me if I have some intervening thing that's gonna completely change basically take me away from being able to look at it, so if you guys want me on the committee, which is fine, I think I need to know what those predictable timelines are. If it's something that's very simple, no big deal. I thought that family transfers, because of the new policy that was implemented this year, was one that was gonna require, even if it's simple, because it was gonna require everybody to look at it. So I do think clarity would help this process.
And obviously something written, I think, coming from the commission, if you want this to be a new procedure, I would like to request something from the commission in writing, and also a timeline then. for how long do we have to review, how long does Corey have to review, myself and our sanitarian?
So any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carries.
Just as one caveat, I haven't reviewed this at all, so if you're approving it, that's fine. Just wanted to know, I'm not saying don't do it, I'm just saying, let's be clear.
Well, we need to get that policy ready. And they did sign that, they did approve the waiver of not selling it for 2 years, so
Okay.
we need to get a policy in writing for what we're gonna do.
Yes.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Any-
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Good luck.
So we will move on to the Silos Action Committee and Trust Board, continue work for Silos Recreation Master Plan.
Before Al starts, Mr. Chairman, if you look at the paperwork from Al, it does state that Brian Obert is part of this committee. And I know we're not giving any money to MBAC, but I do want to read my statement of disclosure, just so that there's absolutely no question. There is no conflict of interest here between myself and MBAC or my husband. Statement of disclosure. There is no conflict of interest between my volunteer work for Broadwater County and citizens and my duty as a county commissioner. My involvement with my community is comparable to other county commissioners throughout Montana. I receive no personal monetary gain from working with Broadwater County Development Corporation, Townsend Area, Chamber of Commerce Auxiliary, Rotary, Montana Board of Crime Control, Youth Justice Council, Area 4 Agency on Aging, County Board of Printing, or any other organization that offers services to the citizens of Broadwater County. I do not own a business or such property. I do not rent or lease any property or assets to any business. The best way to be an effective county commissioner is to be involved. Montana Association of Counties, MACO, has committees that support this work: Economic Development Committee, Health and Human Services Committee, among others. MCA 7-6-2527 and MCA 90-5-112 support commissioners' involvement. My husband is Executive Director of Montana Business Assistance Connection, MBAC. MBAC is Broadwater County's Certified Regional Development Corporation, CRDC, and our federal economic development agency, EDA, and has been since 2004. In fact, Broadwater County has been involved with and complied with the Public Works and Economic Development Act of 1965. Broadwater County contributes an annual equivalent to receive services by both EDA and CRDC as is required for that assistance. That equates to less than 3%, I think it's 1% now, of MBAC's operating budget, and it is not paid to Brian Obert. MBAC derives its funding from many sources, including EDA, CRDC, interest-bearing revolving loan funds, grants, state contracts, and membership from local businesses and governments, cities, and counties, including Lewis and Clark County, Marr County, Augusta, East Helena, Lincoln, Townsend, and West Sulphur Springs. The benefits to Broadwater County are far more than the $1 million. There is no conflict of interest. So thank you for your indulgence, Al.
Great.
Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, thank you for empowering our local citizens group to work towards improving the, what I call very popular and highly used recreation site of Broadwater County, the Silos Recreation Area. Today, part of our group is here, Bob Hollister, Richard Tramp, and then our other partner from the Bureau of Reclamation, Dan Stremka. So I thank them for being here. So if we get any questions, they can help with the answers. The packet that you had contains a request letter. There's also a Silos, what we call a Silos information letter, which kind of gives some of the background about the site out there. What we call a public input document. It's a more compact list of the kinds of things we've heard about as we've been working on this for the past almost 4 years now. There's also a vicinity map for people that don't know where the Silos is, but it helps. Because we're using the same package for a lot of other areas. So There's also a Fishwild Park research document there, 3 pages, that talks about economic impact of the waterways, the reservoirs, rivers, and their economic impact to the state and to this area. So it's, and that's pretty significant. And there's a couple of concept maps attached, that's the colored maps, that came from the framework plan, which was done, finished in April of 2018. And you guys, you got a copy of that through that contract. And you guys know this, but you know, you hold a partnership agreement with the Bureau of Reclamation for the management of the Silos Recreation Area, which is the campground and the boat launches. It does not include the 2-day use areas out there. Excavation and development of Broadwater Bay was done through the federal legislation that was signed dealing with the whole cabin sales on Canyon Prairie Lake. That legislation actually said there was going to be $500,000 spent to excavate Broadwater Bay and put the boat ramp in. So that was a given. That action has been very, very successful. If you've been out there and seen it, you know, a lot of times there's 8-10 boats lined up trying to get into the water, and there'll be a bunch of flotilla out in the bay trying to get out. So the parking lot is full. You'll easily find 125 to 175 trucks, trailers parked in there on a weekend, and 30, 40 campers in the campground. And that use has provided recreational access, fishing access to Canyon Ferry Lake and to the campground. So it's been a big asset. Heavily used. Consequence of that is the place is starting to show wear and tear. It's hard to keep people parking in the right places, using the right facilities the right way. Also, the kinds of users that have come since that was done in 2005 has changed. If you think back 2005, what fishing boats were. They're not what they are today. They weren't as big, weren't as heavy. The camping arena has all changed. The RV stuff has all changed in the past 10, 15 years. And the vehicles that take them there. I mean, you just look down there at the kinds of rigs coming in, and it's different. Our group got together and we asked the VOR, we asked the Corps of Engineers, and we asked you folks, do you mind if we get active and start trying to make some things happen down here? Everybody said, yes, go ahead, take off, go do it. So that's what we've been doing now for almost 4 years. And a lot of it talks about the improvements that need to happen out there. There's a lot of safety issues, there's a lot of health issues out there, there's ADA compliance issues all over the place out there that need to be fixed. And these are things that, if they're not fixed, are going to catch us someday. Unfortunately, it'll catch us. But what we don't want to do is we don't want to repeat what happened to Goose Bay. We don't want to see a campground closed. We don't want to see that kind of disruption. So we've talked all the way through this about how this has got to be a phased effort to do the improvement work one step at a time to get to the end. But we don't want to close a campground, displace people all the time. And there's a lot of work out there that can happen without that. 2017, we worked to get a grant set up, and several local sources, including the county, BCDC, and MBAC, all put money in to do a framework plan, and that's the one I showed you. So that took a postcard survey, it took a survey monkey, yes, and a lot of public meetings. We conducted a lot of interviews of users on the site. We talked to people, we put a booth up at the fairgrounds, we talked, everybody we talked to You go down and just walk into the boat ramp and talk to people about what do you like, what do you don't like, what are your issues, what are your thoughts, all those kind of things. And so we started trying to work down a line of getting a plan done for the place. And one of the first things we found out without the plan is that the BOR can't be successful in trying to get funding to do work on a site they don't have an approved master plan for. Now, there was some thinking that there was a master plan done when they did the bay. There was a map produced, there were some public meetings, but a master plan was never produced and has never been signed off and approved. Correct? BOR can't find it, we can't find it. Everybody that says that, I keep asking them, I said, so show me. Nobody has produced such a document, such a plan. So at this point, we just have to say, it doesn't exist, we gotta get it. And even if it did, it probably needs to really be updated to today's standards anyway. So a consultant was hired that started what was called a phase one to do, get into the planning process. They collected all that information. They conducted 3 public meetings here in the county, trying to get people's input on what they wanted to see, what they liked, and all that kind of stuff. The consultant has a national experience. I mean, we were really overwhelmed with their experience. They do this all across the nation. They've done things down in Arizona and Nevada, southern Utah, those huge big reservoirs there with the BOR and Forest Service. And so we got a really high quality staff working on this. So they did the framework plan. And so we just pulled out the concept maps that they did. And the concept maps are only from the standpoint of showing the kinds of things that could be done out there. They picked some spots and showed them. Those aren't necessarily the spots where things really should be or need to be. And then a year ago, we made contact with the MSU, and they had a landscape design class that had 6 seniors in it. Those senior students came over and spent 3 months working through all the information that we could provide them. They looked at all the things they learned about recreation. They looked all across the country, and they put some conceptual ideas of more specifics about how you could do things at the silos out there and make it a better place. They did that for nothing. That was their senior class project. They just did that. Also in your packet is the Fish, Wildlife, and Parks economic research that they have compiled for their Upper Missouri fisheries plans here. And the interesting thing about that is it shows the economic impact of Canyon Ferry Lake, section of river from here up to Toston. And you can tie that then with the kind of use that comes out of the silos area that goes into Canyon Ferry Lake. Canyon Ferry Lake is attributed to $14.1 million in economic activity. And the stretch of river from here up to Toston is just under $1 million. So collectively, $15 million in economic activity annually attributed to this section of water. Silos Recreation Area contributes significantly to that level of use. Now, the interesting part about that is that does not include, that's only, you walk out the door, you buy breakfast, you buy groceries, you buy lunch, you buy worms, you buy tackle, get some new line, buy a fishing pole. Does not include the economic activity divided or around boats, campers, RVs, trucks, trailers. All the kind of stuff that you see using that place down there doesn't include any of that. So it's just the daily economic activity of going and using this site, or these pieces of water. So the BOR has said, look, we've got to have an approved master plan. So we said we would help do that. We would help get that started. And so that would provide for site design, layout, what goes where, what facilities would look like, general design, in other words, the road templates, gazebos, those kind of things that have a lot of general design to them. If somebody wanted to make some adjustments, they'd have to have that design work done, but the master plan ought to cover most of that. And so that then the BOR, when people come to them and ask them to do some work out there, or to make something, or they're putting in for grants, we know where that stuff's gonna go. Part of the issue's been out there, people have wanted to do things in various places, and you step back and you go, wait a minute, is that where that really should go? Is that where, in 10 years or 5 years, is that where that needs to be? We can't ever answer that question, so that's why we need this master plan. The other thing the master plan will do will be to show the phase work and how it'll be done so we can keep the site open. You know, conceptually, we talk about, you know, one of the loops. We close one of the loops, rebuild that, get that one done, go to the next one. We have to stage things knowing that we need, if we're gonna put trees out there, we're gonna have a water system. If you want power in the loops, you gotta put power. Where does it connect? Where does it disconnect? Those kind of things. So it'll be all laid out. The other thing that having that plan does is not only it allows any entity to go after grants and try and raise money to do work out there, but I think it opens the door then for a lot of community activity. So you got Eagle Scouts that are always looking for places to do their community work. You got all kinds of social groups that are always looking for places to do work. And a good plan would have lots of opportunities to do things like that are not the big construction items. Big construction items are still going to fall back towards the Bureau. I mean, frankly, that's where those are going to have to come from. Tree board, we've talked to them. They're ready to do work out there, but they don't have money or anything, you know, other than what they get for their tree work. So groups like that. The Walleyes groups have been doing work out there. They want to do more work. Trout Unlimited. People that support ADA work, there'll be opportunities for them to do things out there. I know people are looking at bike paths and trails and hiking paths and all that stuff. There are groups that will jump in and help do those kind of things. So I think it really opens up the door for a lot of community activity. And of course, as you know, we've been working basically on behalf of you and the BOR, trying to find funding sources and bring things together to get this master plan set up. And BCDC has agreed to be our fiscal agent, so as we get commitments or donations from private parties, they will hold that money as a fiscal agent and make it available when we all need it. So far, the BOR has agreed to put up $45,000 of an estimated cost of $90 to do the plan. We've got a lot of outreaches out. This is a busy week for us. We've got meetings 2 or 3 times almost every day this week, talking to people. We've got several mailers out. We've had responses on a couple of them. People are interested, and so we'll have to see where that goes. So the request letter that we gave you was for $15,000. That's a third of what has to be matched with these guys. But that's for you guys to decide, not us. And so we've gone to, I think, most of the other groups around town that we know and support us. We've asked for monetary donations, and if they can do them, we've asked for letters of support. So we're collecting all that because as we move down the road further and further, I think you guys will wonder what kind of support we've been able to garner in the county, in the state, and some of these are not county entities. And see what kind of support's out there and get things done. That's why we call ourselves a Citizens Action Group. We're not a citizen support group or anything like that. We're trying to make things happen. So this is the step we have to go through to make things happen. To make this happen first, then the door gets opened up for all the rest of the stuff. I don't know, Bob, Richard, Dan, anything from you guys? Okay.
Pretty well covered it. Other than that BOR money,
that has to be matched, dollar for dollar.
Yeah.
So my question is what happens if you don't meet your match?
Then you don't get his money.
The money will just go back into the general, it's actually federal highways.
Yeah. And the next time he asks for it, he's gonna go through hell trying to convince him that it will do that.
Because essentially we would have turned it down.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you guys are the partners. We're working on both your behalfs. They've already put in, we're asking you to put in, and we're asking a whole lot of other people to put in. So, we don't know where all that's gonna go yet. We're pretty confident that we'll be able to fill the hole. But, so,
If you only get 30, does the VOR still commit 30, or you have to absolutely match the 45?
Our funding is the 45, so yes. And that's, the master plan is, they came up with 90, so that would be,
and that was based on a draft statement of work from consultant, said this is what it would be. They have a list of some other things that could happen. I mean, you know, we've got donors out there that conceivably walk in and just write a check. But whether they do that or not is something else. But then there are some other things we could actually add on to get further down into the weeds for the construction stuff. So that's where we're at. I appreciate your time. Thank you very much. If you got questions, ask these guys.
I think we would expect a plan, if we did it, we would expect the plan to be done by giving that money. So, and it's through the federal lands.
Is there a time frame on this when you wanna have this completed?
They have to have the signed document completed before October 1st, and I don't know if you've got a drop dead date before that, to commit this year's money out of their budget.
So, I mean, I'm looking beyond the master plan. Dan, what is the DOR's vision for this area?
With the contract that we have with you guys, I mean, it talks about anything that's done there would run through us as far as construction. We would review any of the plans and stuff, but I think going through a phased approach like they talked about, trying to develop that. There's other, you know, I think right now they're using flat money to pave a road. We can keep looking at that same stuff to try to, the Goose Bay Road is gonna be paved eventually.
Right.
With that funding, and there's other funding like that that we can start looking at. Without a plan, I kinda go to them saying, well,
Right.
give me the money, and they're saying what for, you know,
Good.
so.
Do you think that there's a feeling in the Bureau that there's a level of commitment to this if this was to go forward?
Mhm.
Yep.
That's a question we get from a lot of people we've talked to, you know, so what does this lead to, what's next? And they just say, well, you gotta get into the design and construction, that's the bigger money stuff.
So let me ask this question, if Broadwater County is still not a managing partner, the Bureau still willing to move forward?
I think we would, it'd probably take a lot longer for us to do it. So, that's my fair state.
Dan, can you talk a little bit about that managing partner, how it works and why it's a benefit for the county? There are some who don't think we should be involved in all, and there are some who feel it's an absolute asset that we are. Could you speak to that a little bit so that we have maybe a balance of information?
You know, I'd have to look back at the contract a little bit more, but you know, I think for me to do a lot of this work I have to get appropriations to do it. And with our budget, you know, sometimes that's just not gonna happen. And so it's either gonna be that or it's gonna be out years. We have to go through what we call RACS projects. It puts money, you know, we identify projects that need to be done, but then it goes into what they call into the RACS system, and that's money that we try to get that's extra as well to do projects. And that's where I'm looking at some of this stuff. There might be some opportunities there. I can start putting, you know, putting that in. It might be out years, but I think the managing partner thing helps me, or helps you guys, everybody, kind of get some other grants and stuff that we can't apply for, but you guys could as a managing partner. That helps. So I think it's a good deal. I think it really is. It would be nice to, keep doing that. I think eventually, if you do get it built up, it could be, it's gonna be more people using it, more people using the community, just like Al was saying earlier about the money that's brought into the county.
So Al, these people that you're requesting donation from, are they going to, you get this master plan in place, where's the funding coming for the improvements?
That's all the kinds of things that Dan's talking about. What our experience is that without having an approved master plan, there are so many grants that we can't even apply for. Or we being collectively, because people won't fund work if you can't show them how it fits in the scheme of things. And so we know without it, it's gonna rely on whatever you guys in the BOR can come up with to do some kind of improvement work. The grant stuff is, and a lot of times, their stuff is easy to match if it's not a federal grant. So there's just, we were looking at a grant one day, they had to deal with how many boats do you have at the docks that are over 24 feet long? And I was like, I don't have any of those. Well, you gotta go down and look, because there are some. And so it's that kind of stuff that without having the plan in place, most of these people won't even talk to you. The other thing that we've encountered is that if you go in and talk about trying to put money into a plan, a master plan, like, I'll do that. You guys gotta get your plan done by yourselves. And so it's like it's the last hurdle on the racetrack, but it's also a foot higher than all the rest. 'Cause it's not just getting over the hurdle, but this one is a little harder because a lot of entities don't want to fund planning. I understand that. But on the other side of it, if you don't have a plan, then you don't get money to do work because they don't know that it's the right work in the right place. So it's a kind of a catch.
Are there organizations there that have made a commitment that once you get a plan, they will contribute? Or do you still have to go through the entire process?
Well, I went to the Upper Missouri River Walleyes for the Predator Trial. Anyway, they're gonna send us a check now for 500 and a letter of support, but they're looking at upwards of 5,000. But they want the plan, they know it's gotta be done first. And they've done work there in that campground, the other walleye groups, we've been putting up shelters and doing work there. And it's kinda on hold right now because we don't have a master plan. And once we have that, that'll proceed. But I did contact Northwest Energy and we're gonna meet with them this week. They've got a couple of options, their budget's immense, so I don't know what's gonna come of it, but they're excited about coming. And then I've already sent in a package to Town Pump as well. And I've contacted Rail Link, but I haven't heard back from them yet. So I know I expect something coming.
But a lot of them have made the statement of, yeah, okay, but, we want to know what kind of support you might want from us in the future. And it's like, well, we don't know the magnitude, but obviously if we get through the plan and get that all done, then we're going to be talking about development, and that's when we'll need more support.
Well, I guess that's kind of where I want to know what kind of support you're going to need in the future, because I don't see the county continually pouring money into this thing. Number one, we don't really have it in the budget. Number two is, you got all these numbers from the Fish and Wildlife and Parks, but the problem is those numbers are money spent not in town.
Right.
95% of those people that come to that lake, they pull their camper and they've got everything they need in there. When they get to the lake, the next time they go is when they leave, and they're not buying anything here. There's a huge impact there in statewide, but that impact is not in Broadwater County.
Part of that is out of the KOA also. That portion is in Broadwater County, the KOA down there. They received a.
Well, and I understand, but what I'm saying is the people that you have staying in this facility
Right.
are not spending money in Broadwater County. True, they're spending it in the state, but the majority of those people, when they come out here to go to that lake, they already have everything they want. When they get to the lake, they're done.
Well, some of the early reports had license plate information in them, and a huge percentage of the users were County 43 users. So they were local people coming out there, so obviously, I mean, they're buying stuff here to go out there. And you're right, to a large degree, most people are, if they've got an RV, they're packed when they come through. But, you know, they still gotta stop and get gas, they might get ice. They come into town at night to go to the grocery store or the bar or whatever. So it's not like nobody does it. I'm sure that if you took all that out of here, there would be a heck of a hole left. I mean, that's just my opinion. I don't know that. I just know what they put in their survey that did not include the largest London boat dealer in the Northwest, which is right down the street. So you know these guys are having a huge impact from this area here. So it's still there. We could sit and debate this all the time because we don't do the research and have the numbers. But so there's effect there.
Is there any data available on where those people are from that are using that campground?
And the
There's
data
no way to
came from
collect
the
that
users.
data.
The data came from the users. The Fish and Game uses like the Creel surveys. So they know out-of-staters, in-staters, and my understanding is they ask them, you know, kind of like, well, how many days did you spend here? How many days did it take you to get here? You know, if they jumped on a plane in Texas this morning and flew up here, the non-resident numbers are like $400 a day compared to a resident, which is like 80.
But I'm talking Broadwater County residents versus state residents.
It's just residents. I don't think they have numbers now.
That might be with the concessionaire though, if they're not renting that, are they collecting any of that data, do you know? I don't know.
I think they would have some, because I believe they get the license plate numbers, but of course with specialized plates, you don't always have it.
Sure.
But if you do just drive through, like you were saying, Al, pick a loop, pick the parking lot with the big trailers, you see a lot of 43s. You also see a lot of 6s and 3s,
Mhm.
but yeah, there's a lot of 43s out there. And Butte, yeah, yeah.
So we know that, we know that economics is how finite it is, you know. The stuff that you got is like, it's statewide, it's residents versus non-residents. So we've gone to BCDC, Chamber of Commerce, City of Townsend, the rec board has a proposal, and the trust board has a proposal. So that's kind of the in-town partnership stuff. We've had discussions, I believe, with Brian up here.
Yep.
So,
He's interested, he wants to see a plan.
yeah.
But Townsend Marine, you know, to go from what they were to where they are, you can ask Brian why. And it's because of the activity up here. So, I don't know. He's got quite a staff.
Question for you, Al. You said that BCDC is the fiscal agent.
Mhm.
So, Trust Board authorized a master plan for the fairgrounds, and with the talk we've had about standards, equity, if the trust board was to fund this match with BOR, under the same idea that they are funding the master plan for the fairgrounds, the money that has been pledged or that you're collecting, could BCDC hold that as a match for a grant that we would then qualify for after the master plan?
No, I would think so. I mean, they did, to my knowledge, they didn't say that they would just hold money for the master plan. They said it would be our agency. So, yeah, BCDC will hold it for whatever we need it for, whatever you need it for.
So we could start a nest egg for dredging, for the safety elements with the camping and
Yeah.
the thoroughfare. Okay,
And the statement of work that I think Dan has a draft of, has a list of 4 or 5 more items that they didn't include, just because, it's like, you know, it's kind of the half step between getting the master plan done with all that stuff and getting into the design stuff. So like soil inventory and those kind of things have to be done before you can build roads.
sure. You know, when you talk about the $15 million in economic activity, and you compare that to the fact that our total valuation is 16 million, that's a significant number.
And that number is just what's attributed to Canyon Ferry and the river between here and Toston. The whole chain of lakes and stuff, I think, was 35 or 36 million. So that's all other stuff.
Sure.
So the people here that go down there, part of that.
Now, well, what do you guys think about maybe putting a letter together for the trust board and asking them to fund the master plan, and then a second letter to the group asking them to continue soliciting support for funds for the first project, instead of all of this going to the master plan?
I think I'd be in favor of the trust board funding. I have a hard time. It just seems to me that we're sticking our neck out for a lot of stuff and we don't get a whole lot out of it. Well, so Dan, what happens if just say Broadwater County just decides we don't want to be a managing partner in that facility?
It would have to come back to us, and then we would probably look at some kind of a concessionaire of that site. And run it like we.
So would that end up looking like Goose Bay then, or would it be?
Concessionaire wise, yeah. Yeah.
What about facility wise?
Again, it'd probably stay roughly the same until we could start putting funding into it.
So one of the things that, if we're gonna have this conversation, that we need to put out there on the table for everybody to be aware of and to engage the public is, why did we work with you guys, the trust board, lead this to acquire the softball field, the golf course, the, what used to be the Poor Farm, and the Rod and Gun Club? We acquired those because we wanted to have local control of those properties and those recreation opportunities. We have that right now with our partnership with BOR for the silos. We have more opportunities for grants that BOR doesn't have access to because of our partnership, that we have citizens who stepped forward and volunteered to help us with. Why would we want to not have this partnership with the citizens, with BOR, not have the local ability to have a voice in silos? Seems to me that this is a great opportunity for the county, and it is a strong economic impact for our county. And then you talk about recreation and health benefits with that. The silos touches our county in so many positive ways. I would be very reluctant to want to go that direction, but I certainly think we'd want to engage the citizens and ask them what they think. But if you guys are good with a letter to the trust board, I'd be happy to draft something.
I think that's the
Go
way
that
to, I
direction?
think that's the direction to go for right now.
Okay, and then also if you guys are good with a secondary letter to our group.
Support them.
Yep, and support starting a nest egg with BCDC for a match down the road.
Sure.
Okay, Mike, you good with all that?
Yeah, I'd be good.
All right.
Do we wanna make that a formal motion then?
Sure, I move that we draft a letter to the trust board requesting that by precedent, they fund this master plan, like the fairgrounds master plan, and that we send a secondary letter of support to the Canyon Ferry Group, the CAGSRA, Citizens Action Group for the Silos Recreation Area, encouraging their work, thanking them for their work, and using the matches by the different groups as a nest egg for future grants that can be realized after the master plan is finished.
Is there a second?
Yeah, question on that though, if, they could still use that money that they raise from their support to match the DOR grant if they want to, right?
Yeah, we
If-
could
if,
come
say,
back
I'm
to
just-
that.
I guess I'm just saying if the trust board decides not to fund it.
I think we would have to come back to that. Again, it goes to the standards discussion that we have. You set a standard so that things are equitable, so you don't say yes to you and no to you because of a personality issue.
They just did that
Um,
with the family transfer.
I think we'd have to come back and talk about that. But yeah, I do think if the trust board were to say no, then I think it falls on us and this group to match that $45,000 so that we're not dead in the water as far as being able to move the silos forward. We do have safety issues. John Hedstrom brought that up on behalf of the search and rescue in multiple meetings. And we're also going to have an issue if we don't get some dredging done. So, you know, I know there's another list, but those are the two that are top on mine personally. So, yeah, we can maybe have a follow-up discussion if we have to, but I agree with you, Daryl. If the trust board says no, after discussion, I think we have to say yes.
I just want to give these guys some kind of option.
Yeah.
So just a clarifying question for going down the road. So if we got some donations in, some commitments, under the funding, I mean, it's between the county and DOR, that I guess maybe we could add some of that, it would be, continue to be a match over and above the minimum required. But it could, like I said, there are several things that could still be done under the master plan deal that I don't think are funded under this stuff you got, right? And so those could be additive if we got some additional funding to do that, rather than say, well, you gotta wait till we actually get to doing some development work, because I think some people are willing to put some in.
So I'll amend my motion to also include a conversation with you guys for additional master plan work, if desired.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Dan, if there's if we get this money to match this and then there's an overabundance of donations, Can we put pressure on the VOR to come back and match that excess fund?
No. We won't, I mean, this is through a grant thing through the federal highways, that's what they gave me, that's it. At this point, this year. You know, that comes out every year. So we could go back and ask, you know, for other funding later that you can use whatever you develop to match. But like I say, with the flap, I think you're matching the 13% on that. I mean, it could be used for something like that, for roadways in there, stuff like that. That might be used for that. We could, you know, apply for those grants, like you did. But again, they take a little while to get done, but we could at least start it.
Maybe they can fund the highway so nobody gets killed going to the lake.
Yeah.
So I guess if there's any public discussion for Corey?
I just have a question. I never was aware of this issue. And I'm not clear on how involved BCDC is in this. Sounds like they're fairly involved. So I guess I would just, if Commissioner Holbert, if you're still a member of the board of BCDC, I would recommend you recuse yourself from this.
BCDC is only holding the money. We are not giving any money to BCDC. I would be happy to recuse myself from it, although I do not think that is necessary. BCDC is only holding, they're the fiscal agent. We're not giving them any money. This is going to BOR as a match, but we have to have an entity to hold it. But yeah, I'd be happy to recuse myself. Because I don't think it's necessary to have that particular fight.
So it might make sense to have another commissioner make the motion that you made and do the letter. Be my recommendation.
Sure, I will, I'll remove my motion.
I will make the motion as stated.
I'll second the motion as long as we have that understanding that we'll continue the discussions later.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same?
And I am abstaining, although there is no conflict of interest and no money being paid to BCDC
Motion
or
carries.
on that.
Motion carries. Thank you all.
Thank you, commissioners,
Thank you,
very much.
gentlemen.
We appreciate the discussion, and we're busy.
Good luck with your project. Dan, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Bureau, for
Yeah, keep trying, we'll keep going, so.
There's a copy of that document for him.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll go to our 11:45, adopt collective bargaining agreement for the sheriff's office.
Original bargaining agreement.
Did have a signature there?
This is the participation agreement supplement for bargaining employees and the supplement participation agreement for non-bargaining.
So we have a motion to approve the collective bargaining agreement between Broadwater County Sheriff's Office and Teamsters Local Union Number 2.
All right, Corey, so did you get a chance to review the final?
I received it from the commissioner. I have not had a chance to review it at all. I did call the sheriff and ask if he was coming. He's at a MACO meeting somewhere, and asked if he had seen it and was gonna sign it. He said he hasn't seen it, so he can't commit to signing or approving it this time. So he asked me to advise the commissioner of that. So that's where I'm at right now. Due to the labor practice issue that I recused myself from, I know you did this with the assistance of an outside attorney, so I've not been involved in this one. I did look at the insurance participation agreement from Debbie. As long as that one date issue was fixed, that thing's good to go.
I will move that we sign the collective bargaining agreement. The reason for the motion is the union members have already signed it. We've worked extensively with an attorney and Max to get to this point. It's been far too long. Union negotiations were stalled, not by the commission, but by the sheriff. And I don't think stalling any further is doing our citizens any services. We need to get this done. So that's my motion.
Is there a second?
I mean, I really think that the sheriff and our county attorney need to weigh in on this. And I don't wanna delay it another week either. It just doesn't seem like we have all the pieces together to make the right decision.
The county attorney can't because he recused himself from it. And I would encourage you to read the emails that I forwarded from the other attorney regarding the sheriff before stalling this for another week. It's been addressed by her multiple times already.
I did not recuse myself from the bargaining. I recused myself from the unfair labor practice measure that went forward. As I understand, once this is adopted, that will be resolved. So I'm happy to review it. I'm not aware of any reason why I would be conflicted from reviewing the agreement. I've not been in any way involved in negotiations, however, to this point. I also don't agree that the sheriff he may be a contributing part, but he's not by any means the sole reason why everything was stalled. Certainly part of it was the unfair labor practice issue. So there's a signature, there's always been a signature line for the sheriff. He's the head of the office. And there is currently on this draft. So I think that's an issue for the commission to work out with the sheriff, but I certainly think his role and his approval of this is essential. He's the guy that's got to carry it out.
Well, I know you were involved in part of the negotiation. You've seen what the language needs to be.
So I was very involved in the last one. This one I was involved in the beginning of it only. So I mean, I'm happy to review it, but I have not at this point been involved. So I think the tougher nut to crack here is the sheriff's approval.
And I do need to add just two points of fact, and I'll encourage you both to follow this up with the other attorney, but the unfair labor practice was a result of this being installed, which the commission did not do. And that will not be resolved with the signing of this contract. If you are not, signing one doesn't take care of the other.
If you want to rely on the outside attorney and have me not look at this, I don't have a problem with that. She's a very competent, good labor lawyer. That's totally your call, and I won't object either way. If you want me to look at it, I'm happy to look at it. I don't think my review of it is going to implicate the conflict of why I recuse myself from the other matter. But I'll leave that up to the commission. Either way, I think the issue that does need to be addressed is the sheriff's approval of it.
Yes, Tim?
Mr. Chairman, Tim Ravenall with Readout News. Just a real quick question. This is the first time that the discussion that I can recall, unless I missed it, where the unfair labor practice issue is tied directly to the new bargaining agreement, which to my understanding would be something that would be discussed in the meeting so that we can make sure that we have those facts right on how that was actually resolved. Because none of the public meetings that I've been to that I can recall ever said, okay, we resolved that conflict with the union. It hasn't been discussed to my knowledge. If I missed it, I apologize. But at any rate, it's tied directly to this with the sheriff needing to have a seat at that table. And so for clarification, it would be helpful. Thank you.
It has not been resolved that I know of.
Okay. Then, whatever you guys do with the attorney you've got, proceed as she tells you, recommend you do, what I would say.
Thank you.
So you said, sheriff's review this. Is that who you're talking about? Okay, I guess I haven't received that email.
I would think we have both Corey and Church review it. And if either one of them, because we've already been through all this stuff, as far as I know, I really don't know if Wynn's okay with this contract or not, because he hasn't said anything to us.
I asked him if I said, are you coming to the meeting? Have you seen the CBA? Are you on board with it? He said, I'm at a Mako meeting, I can't come. I have not seen the CBA, therefore I couldn't tell you that I'm in support of it or approving it, because I haven't seen it. Until I can't tell him that I'm in support of it. He has me convinced, that was some total of it.
So don't pass.
We had sent a letter in January inviting the sheriff to participate in the negotiations. We did have Brandon and Seth both participate, but the sheriff chose not to come. I would refer you back to Shersh's email, but my motion's gonna stand. That we approve this and get it done.
As much as Aaron would like to have, I'm not gonna second it, as much as Aaron wants to hurry up and have this done, but if she wanted to hurry up and have it done, she should have had it to us like a week ago, because she never did mail us the right copy till last week. So, and I think that we have the right to have our attorney and both Church and Corey look at it, and I also think we have to have the sheriff look at it. I mean, just because he doesn't wanna participate in the negotiations, he still has to run the office.
Agreed.
I would think that that's what we would want.
And
So-
I think some of that review's already been done, but I'm okay with a second look by some folks.
So we'll have both Church and Corey review the contract, and put it on the agenda for next week. Does that give you enough time, Corey?
Yes.
Okay.
And I would review the emails because I do believe it went to the sheriff's office,
Okay.
again through Brian and Seth, who I would have expected would have shared it with the sheriff. So I would like to see that and have that as part of the record next week.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask a question?
Yes.
There's a lot of this, I sent it, but there's not a lot of conversation about they received it. Is there any way that you can send it and then make sure that they received it? There's a whole lot of, I sent it, and I sent it, and I sent it, but I didn't get a response. Is there any action taken about, did you receive it? There seems to be a stop gate there.
Normally, if you don't receive it, your computer tells me you didn't get it.
How does the computer know you didn't get it?
Because the email doesn't go through, the computer tells you the email didn't go through.
But does anyone ever verbally contact the other end of the discussion so you know if it got there?
You have to do it by email, or there's no record of it. No, I understand what you're saying, but yeah.
Yeah, there's an awful lot of I sent it, but there's not a lot of I received it going on. Just a question.
Okay, so we'll table that till next week then. Let's see, 11:45, task order between the Department of Health and Human Services and the Broadwater County Public Health. This is a task order for contract 2007101170 for the organization to review and sign. We have authorization for September 1st, 2019 to August 31st, 2020. Is there a motion to approve this contract with the Department of Public Health and Human Services?
So moved.
Second.
Motion been made, second to approve contract with Department of Health and Human. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carried. have to get a copy of that back to Teresa today too. Let's see, this goes with that. So, thank you. Is there any further items for discussion?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I guess there's a discussion item we've been trying to get on our agenda for the past couple of weeks, and Corey, I might probably need your help on this. We still need to either contract for service or select, or do an authorization for special counsel on some outstanding issues. Is that something that we still need to do?
I believe so. I think there's a couple issues where I feel I have a conflict you can't resolve, and they're not covered by the Attorney General's appointment of Marty Lambert. And so I do think there's a couple things that the commission needs to appoint. My recommendation is appoint in as well to address, but, yeah, I think there are still a couple things we need left out there to deal with.
All right, so I guess we need to settle on some language of the document or whatever it is that we decide is gonna serve us best. I know we had two proposals. One is the appointment, or I mean, the authorization requesting for special counsel. The other is a contract for services.
Correct. So the second one that's been suggested is basically like a probably relatively short-term interlocal agreement with another county. That was the second one. The first one was just a straight appointment, so. The first one is, I think the first one's more appropriate. I think the second one is also adequate, so I can send you guys something and you guys can decide which one you wanna do.
All right. Well, I think it's gone on long enough. I think it needs to be on our agenda for next week, one way or another.
Okay. And are you available for Copper City Road next week?
Yes. As I was gonna ask, if you guys got all those materials I sent you on Carp City Road?
Yeah.
So if you're, two things on that. One, if you wanna put it on the agenda, then I can notify Mr. Goss, I think his attorney's likely to come. And then the second thing is, the memo I gave you is protected attorney work product. If you want me to make a publicly available version of that, I can do that as well. Basically, that would be explaining just the factual history, et cetera. It's your call. The one that I have now would be, it wouldn't be disclosable because it's with a private entity, et cetera. And his attorneys agreed that it's not disclosable if he doesn't have a right to do it. So it's up to you. If you want me to do a publicly available version, I can do that.
I would like it to be publicly available.
Okay. So I'll give you one that's got less of my legal opinions and more of the facts. And then all the appendix documents, it's like 70 pages, those are all public records.
Sure.
And I can generate several copies of that for the public. It's basic, most of it's just old committee or commission agenda items and minutes, but there are some documents. Every document I have is either a document that was recorded in the clerk and recorder's office or was a commission agenda item, et cetera. So all we did was spend a lot of time mining them from multiple previous years. Okay. Very good.
Since that potentially comes to a banning in a road, do we have to advertise that with a more specific?
We do need to advertise it. And then I'm gonna recommend we do a formal action. And if you want to dedicate the new Copper City Road as well, I mean, you guys just tell me the actions you wanna take, and we'll do that. And then I can prepare the documents that need to be done for that.
So are we okay having it on the agenda next week, or do we have to advertise for a certain amount of time before we go through the process?
The statute says it must be advertised, and before a commission can act to declare or abandon a county road, it has to be publicly advertised and have a public hearing. It does not have a set number of times that it has to be. So I think if you advertise in accordance with your normal schedule, say Wednesday, it is for a Monday meeting, I'll ensure that it gets to Mr. Goss and his attorney. And then, I don't know if there's any other members of the public that would care about it, but we could certainly, I could ask Nicole if she's got aware of anybody that would wanna know about it, we could put it out, but I mean, that statute, that only specifically says those things, publicly advertised in a public meeting. Beyond that, it doesn't give more requirements, like some where you have to do it twice, et cetera. There's no requirement there for that road. And then, the other thing just give you a heads up on an agenda soon, I've reviewed all the concession agreements with the trust board and the Rod and Gun Club, et cetera. Peter Simon did some edits, he got them back to me last Thursday, and then we spent all our life on the other stuff, so I haven't looked at it yet, but I'm not sure what the deadline is, but I understand there's an August deadline sometime for them to finalize that. So, I would say probably good to have it on next Monday's agenda, not later than next Monday. And they're, with his minor edits, they should be done. I should be able to get those to you by email in the next day, as long as his edits don't require me to redo something.
Any other items for discussion then? If not, we'll adjourn at 12:31.
Where they're doing the prices.
I got a question.
Recreation area.
Gets there all of a sudden.
I wrote down that part. You hit 75.
For emergency vehicles. So evidently,
Your daughter,
there's no access.
your puppy, there
I wonder
must
if
be
they're
some
not
special
gonna
love between those two.
Oh, yeah, well,
I've been just to the top of the hill and I have 40,000 miles on my tires. And I thought,
He had a.
It helps it, it's a long
I don't know.
There's some kids in the
Yeah, there's
class.
no. They've never only been there with BLM or somebody. It's public. And so they're.
So you gotta have some access.
Yeah, gotta have access.
Yeah, I believe that.
Oh, I forgot about that.
You weren't here for Warren's.
I think,
No, I heard. Yeah.
oh, for his band?
I've got some people. Yeah.